Come on, you have to help me. Good Monday morning. Thank you for joining us live here on the Zoom. We also will replay this a couple of times in a couple of places. So if you're watching it there, thank you for hopping on and tuning in. And we also throw this on our podcast so that we can hit people in multiple places. I had someone I ran into in Colorado on a trip a couple of months ago that walked up to me that I may have met in the past. I just quite really wasn't sure. And she was like, I used to listen to your podcast all the time that you and Sid did. And I looked at her and I was like, what podcast? We don't have a podcast. She's like, yeah, you do. And I was like, no, you don't. I've never done a podcast. And actually, I think she just hopped on right now. So I was like, no, we've never done a podcast. I'm telling the story, Kathleen, that you said to me. I was like, no, we don't. And she's like, yeah, I used to listen to it all the time. And I was like, oh my God, I had to sit there and think for a minute because I was like, that's right. Sydney used to take all of these that we would do and put them on a podcast. So thank you, Kathleen, because we have re-upped that podcast and we are starting to put these back on there again. What had happened was we had another partner that we really did all of these things with, and she went a different direction, and that's okay because business changes and people go in different directions, but it just slowed Sydney and I down for a hot minute. And in the last couple of months, we've been kind of collecting all of our pieces and all of our ducks and putting them back in a row.
Recording.
And that is kind of what this morning is about. And Kathleen, we've been on here. We've never stopped doing our Mondays and our Wednesday mornings for this whole time. We're not taking all of the pieces and repurposing them, which was one thing I learned on the retreat that we were on together was like, I have so much content. We've done so many things and we need to repurpose those things. So as part of your guys' plan of what you're doing, you want to make sure that if you're doing lives or you're doing things like this, or you're getting on Zooms and teaching anybody anything or making graphics or posts, one thing I adore about, I know I just went off on a tangent, but I'm just going to share this. One thing I adore about Canva and Trello, where we store all of our content, is that we have gobs and gobs and gobs of content for years. And we need to repurpose all of that. So in Canva, one thing I'm going to teach on one of these Zooms in the coming months, we'll take some tools that we use and teach those to you guys too. But one thing I love about Canva is we did a commit to finish, 90-day commit to finish. I think it was 2 years ago, Sid, correct me if I'm wrong, for the last 90 days. And we created so much content for that. I was able to go back into the Trello boards, grab some of the stuff we did for that. I was able to go back into our Canva accounts and I had graphics, 90 days of quotes and graphics that were already done. I just refinished all of them, kind of changed colors, which will change all 90 days at one time, moved some things around, updated them to look fresh and clean, and we're reusing those. And so when you have stuff that you do like this, it was a great reminder to run into Kathleen and realize that just because we had one of our pieces move on to do some other things in her life did not mean that Sydney and I shouldn't maintain and continue to do what we love doing, which is pouring into other people and creating a space and a place for people. And one thing that we get told all the time is that people wish they had that business bestie, for lack of a better term, that person that they can count on, that person that holds them accountable, which will be part of what I'm going to talk to you about today. That person that they can do life with, but can also do business with and bounce things off of. I've been very sick for the last 10 days and Sydney is which I would do the same for her, right? That's just what happens. Her and her husband are bringing me food and checking in on me and making sure that our business stuff isn't lagging. And while I'm laying on the couch, we're doing business still. And that's just how it goes when you have that accountability partner and that other person to check in with. Her name is not Jessica Green like it shows on the screen. It is Sydney Slayman. So we are not twins because we look very different. I'm just laughing because I'm looking at your name. I'm like, there's two of us here today sharing with you, but you need that other person in your business. If you try to do business all on your own, it makes it so much harder and it makes it so much more not fun. And I will be honest with you, like transparency, I started before I started the recording this morning to share with you guys how sick I had been and where I've been the last 10 days. But I wanted you to know, like, no, I don't. Excuses are not part of my vocabulary. However, when you get sick, does your brain play tricks on you? Because man, for the last 10 days, my brain has been playing tricks on me. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. People don't need me. I don't want to do this anymore. How can I motivate somebody when I'm so down in the dumps and down in the slumps? How do I get on and coach people on a Monday morning or teach them anything? And so I was thinking about it this morning, and I even said to my husband, I was like, I can't do today. He's like, yeah, you can. I'm like, no, I can't do today. I have to do today. There's people like Sydney who count on me to do today. It's part of what we do together. I know people show up here and count on learning something. Hopefully most of you are not Zoom zombies and you're not just like on here to show your face. Hopefully you're on here to learn something. So just, I'm sorry, a little off on a tangent this morning, but like I said, I'm claiming illness. So if nothing makes sense this morning, hopefully you can at least point and laugh, and that it made your Monday morning to hear that we all go through things and life happens. But having this accountability group made me get out of my bed this morning, dizzy as I may be, and still get on here. And I prepared yesterday because I knew that I had other people counting on me. And so the accountability is such a huge piece in what I want to talk to you about today. And so I figured starting off with that and telling you, thank you guys for showing up here on a Monday morning. I really appreciate it, because without you, I would not stay accountable to the things that I need to do. And teaching other people and helping other people along the way is what makes me better at what I do. And it makes me a better human because I can give back a little bit of what's up here and what's gotten me to a successful point in my career. Okay. Now we're all going to go through these, okay, throughout the whole process. And you're going to go over those peaks and those valleys over the next 90 days. Okay. These last 90 days are not magical. They're not different than the past 90 days unless you make them different. Okay. Unless you choose to do something to make them different. So I titled this, Let's Begin with the End in Mind, because as I was thinking about, what we really need to do over the next 90 days, I want us to start with, first of all, Begin with the End in Mind comes from, this is one of my favorite books. It is literally beat up, back cover torn off. That's how many times I've read it. I think this is actually my copy from college decades ago. Yes, Sydney, decades ago. It's The 7 Habits of the Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It is probably, and I'm so glad that my college professor had me read this, and we had to do a whole presentation and report on this book for an entire semester of college. That's how important he valued this book. And I've used it as a little bit of a business Bible in my career path for this long. And that's why there's no back cover. There's lots of sticky notes I was just tearing off of here, and old crumpled up pages in here, because it's one of those books that will change the trajectory of your business and really anything that you decide to do in life. I haven't made my son read this book yet, but it is going to be before he leaves high school. There will be an entire, it might be dragging him and beating him over the head with it, but I'm going to make him read it and write me a report on it. Because I believe that in college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I defaulted back to a business degree because I just wasn't sure and was hoping at some point that would do me some good. Obviously, that's worked out, thankfully. But one of the biggest pieces in college was this book. And the second habit in this book is begin with the end in mind. And I'll be honest with you, when I read this book in college, it just didn't really resonate. I don't think it's resonated until the last 5-6 years in my business career, because then I was like, oh my gosh, all those lessons make sense now. But wouldn't you prefer to be equipped with those? So I highly recommend this book. If you have not read it yet, you should. And it's one that I wouldn't necessarily do on Audible. It is one I would get the physical book and I would take a highlighter to it and I would get a notebook out and I would write some notes down, because it is one that you will carry with you through every single thing you do in life, not just in business. So I'm starting with the second habit just because it went with what I wanted to talk about today, which is begin with the end in mind. So let's think about our 90 days. Okay. I want you to picture December 31st, 2022. And if you're not driving and you can close your eyes, go ahead and close your eyes. If you can't and you need to do this later, please stop and take a few moments to do this later. And then get out a notebook, and I want you to make some notes about what you see or draw a picture of that vision. But I want you to think about December 31st. I want you to sit and actually visualize it's going to be New Year's Eve. It's going to be the end of this year. And a lot of times when we get to the end of a year like that, people are like, oh my gosh, I cannot wait for this to flip over to the next year because everything's going to change for me in 2023. 2022 was not my year, but 2023 is going to be my year. I don't want that to be what you do on December 31st, 2022. I want you to picture right now something a little bit different. What have you been striving to do all year this year that still hasn't been accomplished, but you know that in a course of 90 days, you can get it done still. You can be that person. You can reach that goal. You can put it all on the table, tie those tennis shoes up, and go run like you've never run before. But what I want you to do is close your eyes and picture yourself on December 31st, 2022, achieving whatever that goal is that you want for the next 90 days. Maybe it's multiple goals. Maybe it's one big, hairy, scary goal. It doesn't matter. I just want you to sit today a few minutes and visualize what it's going to feel like to have accomplished that 90 days from now. December 31st, 2022, you wake up in the morning, maybe you have grand plans for New Year's Eve. I always think I'm going to have grand plans for New Year's Eve, and then I end up sitting like next to Sydney on the beanbag while we watch. We try to stay awake till midnight, and it never works, and everybody passes out well before that. Things have changed at 45. Anyways, I digress. I would like to envision myself reaching a goal that I've really set forth for me to do this next 90 days. And I want you to do that too. So when we begin with the end in mind, we have to start there. If we don't start there, most of the time, 90% of the time, failure is because you're not clear about what the end point is. We say we want all these things. We want an auto bonus, or we want a vacation, or we want to have paid off a credit card, or we want to have put so much money in the bank account, or we want to have, paid for something important that we want to do, or we want to have lost, 10 pounds or 20 pounds or whatever that goal is, right? And we kind of just put it out there. It's a goal. It's why I go over so much with you guys SMART goals, because when we just set something out there, we don't put a time frame on it, and we don't get really serious about it, and we don't create a plan for it, and we don't think about ahead of time what the roadblocks might be that will get in our way. 99% of the time, you're not going to achieve that goal. So if you get on these Zooms in the morning and you listen to me talk, but you don't actually go execute anything, which is what next week will be about, I'm asking you to actually start doing that this time. You have 90 days. We're at the beginning of it right now, but look towards the end and feel today, really feel. What do you want to feel like? What will that look like? Let's pretend it's lose 20 pounds. Picture that outfit you're going to put on for New Year's Eve. Picture what that's going to feel like when you button up those jeans and they actually fit, or maybe a little loose. Picture what that's going to feel like when you get to feel comfortable in your clothes again, and you get to go out for New Year's Eve and see friends and be around family and the people who matter the most to you, celebrating not just that the year is coming to a close and there's a new year on the way, but what will it feel like to have hit that goal before you get to January 1 and set that goal with everybody else who usually dumps it in the toilet 2 weeks later? I want you to sit and feel what that's going to feel like. Maybe it's a bonus that you're going after. Maybe it's a new rank in your company. Maybe it's a promotion at your job. Maybe it's getting one step closer to a big giant goal that you have, but that's going to take a couple of years. So you need to hit some milestones, of which we'll talk about in a second. I want you to really feel what that's going to feel like. And I'm pounding on this because I know that maybe 15% of you will get off here and do that today, and the rest of you won't, because you won't think about the end before you start. You will just start, and then you will actually probably quit within 10 days. We do it every month. I know, I watch. It's one good thing about network marketing is you start over at the beginning of each month for the most part. And you can usually see when people are so excited. Start. What's your favorite saying, Sydney? Run from day one. It's run from day one. And then day one is over. And because we didn't start with the end in mind, we quit after day one. Ooh, I just got really dizzy there. I need to not move around so much. Okay, so I want you to really sit and think about that today. Number two, I want you to be honest with yourself. You need to assess your current situation. What are you doing right now? What have you been doing this last 90 days or 120 days that's not gotten you there yet? I want you to assess and be really honest with yourself of what are you going to do different this 90 days that you haven't been doing already? What promises are you going to make to yourself that you're not going to break this time? Which ones? What are you going to do different? And you know what bothers me more than anything because I work with a lot of people, right? Different businesses along a few years and different business partners. And if there is one thing that makes me crazy, it's when someone will not admit to their faults. And I don't mean like, I don't have any, I have plenty. But if you're constantly saying you're going to do something or reach a goal, and you're letting yourself and other people down, and there's always an excuse in the way, and there's always just something, but you'll never admit that it's you. You'll never say, yeah, I kind of have an issue here. I need to have a little come to Jesus with myself and be honest with myself. I suck at accountability. I suck at checking in and telling somebody else that I screwed up and I didn't accomplish it. And I let X, Y, and Z get in the way. And I have all these excuses. If that's probably my biggest pet peeve with people in entrepreneurship and in business. If you're going to do something and you say you're going to do it, do it. I understand life gets in the way, but it cannot be the same thing over and over and over and over that gets in your way so that you don't get it done. That's just, it's like lying to yourself. So let's be honest and take some inventory on what has not worked for us and have a little come to Jesus. And let's move forward the next 90 days with honesty within ourselves. Okay. Then I want you to design a path. You have got to figure out what that end point is and what it looks like and what it feels like. And then you must design a path to get there. What are you going to do? What are the steps you're going to take today? What are the steps you're going to take tomorrow? What are the steps you're still going to be taking on November 15th and December 12th that aren't going to change, that you're not going to quit on? Design that path today. How are you getting there? If it's lose 20 pounds, if it's earn a $20,000 bonus, if it's rank up in your business, what is the path you are designing to get there? What are all the pieces of the puzzle that if they come together and they fit together will get you to that point that you've envisioned on December 31st, 2022? What is the path you are designing? Have you actually ever sat down and drawn out that path, written it out, taken some inventory on what works and what doesn't work and what puzzle pieces need to fit together? Have you actually ever done that? Or do you just think, I've got it up here in my mind, I'll figure it out? That's my goal. I'm just going to keep running as fast as I can, calling as many people, posting as many times on social media as possible, but it's all up here. There's nothing written down in a planner. There's nothing written down on your goal sheet. It's disappearing on me. You have nothing here. You have no paths of how you're doing it. I challenge you, once you get that vision and you get honest with yourself, to then design your path for the next 90 days. And something that you can put in front of you that you don't quit on 10 days from now. Okay. check in with it. So put your pen to paper, make that plan today, make the plan, the path that you're going to take to get to where you want to get on December 31st, 2022. I want you to fully commit. You have to have massive commitment with yourself. And with that is accountability. I want you to, if you're going to commit to getting this done, I want you to pick an accountability partner, not elusively, like call that person up today, tomorrow. I'll give you till next Monday to figure it out. I want you to have an accountability partner. I want you to have somebody that when you're sick for 10 days and laying on the couch, you still have to check in with them to let them know what you are doing. Now, I'm not saying you can't be sick and like take a break. Lord knows I have not left my couch very much in the last 10 days, but my goals are still there. So while I could only sit up for 10 or 15 minutes at a time over the weekend, you better believe my laptop was next to me and I was creating stuff that needed to get created. And I was working on things and having conversations. And if I had to be on a call and laying down on the couch with an AirPod and listening in, that's what I was doing. It's just what we have to do when we have this 90 days in front of us and we want to hit the target, and we will fully commit, and we are being held accountable, because I'm being held accountable. If I continuously say I'm going to do something and then I don't do it, but I only have me to let down, we will let ourselves down so many times, over and over and over and over. And guess what that does actually in the long term? It makes you think and believe that you are not capable of accomplishing anything. So you will stay in that little rat race, hamster wheel of I'm not good enough. I can't do it. I've never been able to do it because I haven't done it, because I'll never do it, because I haven't yet. Because you will continuously let yourself down because you don't have someone else you're checking in with. For whatever reason, when we have someone else to check in with, it does help us come to the table with something. It does when we could think, well, I could sit on the couch and just watch Netflix all day because it feels good and it's a Sunday and I need some self-care. I'm sorry, we do need self-care sometimes, but we'll use it as an excuse. I went off the wheel. Get off the wheel then. You got to have someone who will hold you accountable, though. They can't all be Sydney and I. I'm just going to say we'll be here on Mondays and Wednesday mornings. But find a person. Find a person who's just as determined as you. Because if you go find an accountability partner that will let you off the hook and doesn't stay accountable to you, that's pointless. Part of the reason that Sydney and I started this back up again in the Hustle and Slay group, your business besties, is because we wanted you guys to have somewhere to come hop in and not recruit each other if you're with different businesses, but somewhere to hop in and find somebody that is on the same type of journey as you, because it's hard to find those people out in the world. We want everybody to feel like they have somebody that's on the same path as them. Doesn't necessarily have to be the same company, doesn't have to be the same exact journey, but it has to be somebody who will hear you when you're having a bad day, but not let you off the hook. Oh, it's okay, you didn't contact 5 people all 7 days of the week. Whatever those goals are, that path that you've come up with, you need to share that with your accountability partner, and you need to stay accountable to it. You need to have some benchmarks and set those and define them and let them know, let your accountability partner know what those benchmarks are. Make a post in Hustle and Slay. If you want more than just one accountability partner, pick one that you can chat with. But if you want more than one, we'll help you hold yourself accountable in there. There's people who post in there and let us know what their goals are and what they're running towards. You can do that too. Put some benchmarks in there. Tell us what your goals are for this month and next month and 90 days from now. Tell us what you're visualizing for December 31st, 2022. Then stay accountable to us. Post in there, bump your own feed with the things you've accomplished. We are going to cheer you on. That's what that group is for. That's what we're here for you. So if you have a hard time finding that one accountability partner, stay accountable in the group. We'll all hold you accountable. We'll all be there to cheer you on when you hit your benchmarks. And when I'm talking about cheer you on, this is the last thing I'll say. Sydney's going to talk about quick wins, probably more so to do with social media on Wednesday, but celebrate the quick wins. We need quick wins. Otherwise, we get tired of banging our head up against a wall. So when you're creating that path for yourself today to get to that end point on December 31st, I want you to come up with some very quick wins in the next 10 days, 20 days, at the end of the 30 days, at the beginning of November, at the middle of November, at the end of November, at the beginning of December, at the middle of December. I want you to come up with like 10 or 12 quick wins, things that if you hit those benchmarks, let's say, let me give you an example. If your goal is to lose 20 pounds, it's, by middle of October, you want to have at least lost 2 pounds. Or maybe it's not about the weight at that point. Maybe by the middle of October, you want to have checked off on your accountability box that you have exercised 5 out of 7 days a week, 7 out of 7 days a week. You've drank your half gallon or gallon of water every single day for 15 days. You have managed to eat healthy for all 15 days. What is the quick win? It is that you accomplished part of that path. And what is your reward for yourself at that point? Create that reward system now. That is part of your path. I want you to have some quick wins so that you stay mentally in the game and plugged in to get to your goal at the very end of this. Okay. So number one, visualize today where you want to be in 90 days. Start with the end in mind. Figure out what that end point is and where you want to be and what it's going to look like. Then I want you to make your path. Draw it out, write a list. I want you to have the whole thing mapped out in the next couple of days. I want you to find an accountability partner. I want you to get accountable. Tell us in the page where you're headed in 90 days and exactly what that's going to look like for you. Then I want you got your accountability partner. I want you to create a reward system so that when you hit those quick wins along the way, you feel good about what you did so that you will continue going. Okay. That's my plan for you. I will see you here next week. We'll see you here on Wednesday. I appreciate you guys plugging in on Monday mornings. It helped me stay accountable, even though I don't feel well still. And I'm probably going to go back and lay down in a little bit. But I am here. I will be in the page. If you want to throw your goals in there and what you're trying to do the next 90 days and that you need help staying accountable, please go throw that in the page today. And we'll be in there to cheer you on. I hope all of you guys have a fabulous week. And thank you for showing up on your Monday morning.